Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Kevin Staples.
And you're listening to Rainbow Country
with Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, the Awesome Music Project, a book and charity that explores music's transformative impact on mental health and mental wellness. That and more in episode 398. So stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #1 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, my 2019 interview for the Awesome Music Project, a book and charity that explores music's transformative impact on mental health and mental wellness. By the way, did you know that by age 40, 50% of the population will experience a mental illness? The Awesome Music Project was created by authors Rob Carlyle, and joining me on this interview is the Chief Innovation Officer at Deloitte Canada and co-author of the Awesome Music Project, Terry Stewart. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. And on this episode, I'm featuring some classic 80s, a gay men's set, and more. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 398 through Rainbow Country. But first up, the latest evicted house guest from Big Brother Canada, Season 12.
I have the results. By a vote of 7-3, Donna, you have been evicted from the Big Brother Canada house. Please get your things and say your goodbyes. Okay.
Donna, hi, how are you?
I'm doing lovely. How are you?
I am well. Donna, the vote, 7-3.
Oh.
Did that vote surprise you?
Honestly, no, because that morning I just accepted the fact, like, man, I did what I could, but I really don't think these people are going to keep me. Like, it's just too good of a week to be like, let's keep a strong player. Like, I was served on a silver platter, you know? Who wouldn't go for that? Vote her out.
Donna, do you think that the people that voted to keep you in the game, do you think that they put a target on their own backs?
I do worry that, yes, they did. But I'm just hoping to God one of them gets some power, so this weird shift of power that's going on right now changes, and then they can get out of that target zone.
You were part of an all-girl alliance, Big Sisters.
Huh. Oh, yeah.
Victoria was head of household, your fellow alliance member.
Yes.
Why did your own alliance choose to backdoor you?
I honestly still don't know. They were just feeding me these weird, like cryptic reasons of like, you made me feel this way, I'm like, this can't be the main reason. Like, I know you guys are very smart, so it has to be game. Like, there must be some other alliance, and I kind of put that together on my way out. So I just knew some people that straight up told me that they're not going to vote for me. Like, I just could not get their vote. I was like, okay, there has to be a bigger game move happening here that I don't know.
Did that backdoor, did it truly surprise you?
I don't know what it showed on the camera, but my face, I literally don't remember walking to that chair. It shocked me. I was standing, like, I don't even know what happened. I was sitting there, and all I knew was, like, just don't give them anything to work with. Like, none of these people are going to see me cry and be scared on the block. Not in front of them. Hell no.
What is it that you think you did to have your alliance turn on you, to backdoor you? Do you have any thoughts, any ideas, what you think you may have done?
Honestly, maybe they saw me getting closer with Bailey on the outside of our alliance more. I don't know, to be honest. What could have I done wrong? I think maybe they saw my strengths, because I think I was a very versatile player and maybe a dangerous one in their eyes. And maybe they got intimidated and felt like they couldn't control me, because I was a very independent thinker and very vocal about it. So I think that's kind of where I messed up a little bit.
Girl alliances, all-girl alliances. Why do you think it's so hard to keep an all-girl alliance, or even just a girl alliance, together?
Honestly, I don't know why it's so hard to keep an all-girl alliance together. For me, it was very, very simple. I'm like, okay, when I commit to something, and I really do commit to something, I'm in. You don't have to tell me twice. You guys are my ride or dies. But with a bunch of girls, I don't know what the issue is. I do see this a lot in the real world of like, girls turn on each other really quick, but they'll give their boyfriends so many chances. And the first time their best friend wrongs them and maybe offends them, they're quick to throw them to the ditch, you know? And I don't know. I really don't know why this happened, but all I know is I was committed, so.
Donna, had you stayed in the game, had you had the votes to stay in, would you have gone back to continue to work with your all-girl alliance Big Sisters? Would you have continued to work with your alliance?
That's a very tough question to answer. But I think in this game, like, I do forgive, but I'm not stupid. So if I notice like they started to talk without me, I would be like, hey, like I truly cannot trust them. And if anything, like my plea to people is like, whoever saves me this week because my own alliance has turned on me, I will not forget that, and I will not put you on the block. And I thought that was a pretty good deal. I'm like, you have my vote, and I will not put you on the block, because there's a great chance I'm going to get HOH a few times in this game, because I'm a very strong competitor physically, mentally, you know? So I thought it was a good move, but they didn't take the bait.
Donna, let's go back in time. You find out you'll be on Big Brother Canada 12. Do you have a strategy going into the game?
I remember thinking to myself, my strategy is not, so it's ironic, my strategy was not to commit to an alliance right off the bat, right? Like, I wanted to be a floater, and then see the dynamics of the house, and then join whatever alliance felt natural. But the thing is, like, I got pulled into this girl alliance day 2. I think where I really messed up is having such a big number of people that I only just met and committing to them right off the bat. I should have stuck to my gut of like, wait it out a little bit and see who you naturally gravitate to.
Playing, not that you necessarily would know any alternative because this is your first time playing the game, but playing with returning house guests. What was that experience like for you? Did you find it more challenging than you thought it would be to play this game?
To be honest, I found a lot of people in the house looked up to these people like they're gods walking on their earth. And for me, like I have a lot of confidence because I had to build that up. I looked at these people as my equals and not as like high and mighty as majority of the house did. Like I really do feel like a lot of them are ruining their game and not thinking of their personal game because they're kind of complying with the All-Stars wishes. So it was challenging at first trying to figure out where am I going to fit in this. But then I think I really got it like I got into the rhythm of just knowing like I'm an equal of these guys. Like I can have the tough conversations. So it was tough, but I had some confidence under my belt and I knew I was going into a war zone and they're my equals.
Here's my last question for you, Donna. Best part about being part of Big Brother Canada Season 12?
Honestly, the best part was when we weren't talking game and we were just like personally getting on with people that we really gelled with. I also really loved the competitions, and unfortunately I never got to play in a POV, and that Comp Beast challenge looked amazing. That was so up my alley. So I just wish I could have played like some more puzzles, but I really love the comps. They're wicked.
Donna, I have to say, well said, well done, well played. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Big Brother Canada Season 12 airs on Global TV Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. For more information, simply visit bigbrothercanada.ca. When I return, my 2019 interview for the Awesome Music Project.
Hi, this is Amanda Marshall, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Terry Stewart, hi.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you. I'm great.
Good. I always say this, but I'm going to say to you in person, thank you for taking your time to be here with me.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. The Awesome Music Project Canada, Songs of Hope and Happiness. First of all, how did you guys settle on that title?
We actually had a lot of debate. Robert Carley and I are co-authors of this, co-curators really, because it's 111 stories by other people. I had come up with the Awesome Music Project, and Rob really hated the name. Didn't think it was serious enough, to be honest, about the topic that we're dealing with music and mental health. And so we went out and did some testing and talked to a bunch of friends and said, okay, no name on it. Here's the book. Look at the stories, read the stories, and everybody came back and said, oh my God, that's awesome. So ultimately, Rob gave in to the naming convention, and it does actually stick now. People, when you say it's the Awesome Music Project, they're starting to remember it. You can see the logo on my hat. It's got a nice little short tag of AMP.
AMP,
and you can amplify. So it was a lot of debate, but that's where we are now.
So Robert Carley is your co-author, and you guys put together this beautiful hardcover book, a book with a purpose, I would say, released October 10th, number 1 on Amazon.ca for music, number 20 for happiness in the happiness category, and overall top 100 on Amazon.ca and all 5-star reviews. Congrats on that.
Thanks. We're super excited.
How does that make you feel?
It's a bit surreal, to be honest, because this was a bit of a passion project for both of us. Wanted to really explore the healing power of music and how it could help solve mental health challenges, but really cathartically just do a project that told a lot of happy and hopeful stories. And the fact that it made #1 on the Amazon listings on the first day was pretty exciting and extra special because it was World Mental Health Day at the same time. So sometimes good things happen to good people, I guess.
How did this book come about?
So the book is 111 stories about songs that make people happy and hopeful. And it's really a music book, but it has all kinds of wonderful stories. And we sprinkled a little bit of science in. So at the end, it's got 4 chapters. And at the end of every chapter, there's an article by a neuroscientist or a music therapist or a psychologist talking about what's really going on in your brain when you're listening to music. So we wanted people to read, super interesting stories about songs that make them happy, but we also wanted them to learn a little bit about how amazing music is for our mental health through the journey.
And from beginning to end, how long did this book take to come to fruition? How long did it take?
Yeah, the serious conceptualization was about 18 months ago. And so, and then I think I talked to Rob about 6 months after that, or into the journey, and off we went together on the idea of creating this. And it's been an amazing ride, and we couldn't have done it that fast without some awesome collaborators. So Page 2 Publishing out of Vancouver are the people that helped put together this beautiful book. So they connected us with a writer to help capture the stories for people that weren't writers. They had one of the people on their staff, Peter Cocking, that is an amazing illustrator. And he said, Terry, you've got amazing stories in here. You have to make it visually compelling or people aren't going to actually read the stories. And so I have a lot of gratitude for Peter, because the beautiful book that you see is a result of him and his design working with Page 2. So this went that quickly because it was a collaboration of multiple people with diverse skills.
Was there a flashpoint? Was there a moment that sparked this book?
Yeah, I'd had a number of friends that had issues with mental health in their families or personally. One couple, Eric Windler and Sandra Hannington, their son Jack died of suicide about 10 years ago. And they were good friends from work, and I realized how serious this topic was. They both quit their jobs and created something called the Jack Project, jack.org. And jack.org is an amazing organization that actually help educate high school students and university students on how to become mental health advocates and suicide prevention advocates. So that was, in my mind that mental health was something. I'd personally gone through anxiety and depression all the way to being diagnosed and having, prescription antidepressants. And then I had an individual very close to me who'd actually gotten all the way to writing a suicide note. And it was something that was to your point, like that was the galvanizing moment where I said, holy cow, let's dig into this. And as I looked at it, they had anxiety, they had not clinical depression, but a number of things had happened, and they ultimately had been prescribed antidepressants from their doctor without the discussion of the efficacy rate of the antidepressants, without the mention that one of the big side effects of antidepressants is suicidal thoughts. So I started digging into it and thinking, for me, when I get anxious or depressed, music has always been the thing that pulled me out, whether it was playing music back in high school, DJing, going to concerts. I love going to see live music. And it was always the thing that brought me through it. And I looked at some of the other friends that I had and family members that had had challenges, and music was always the healing power. So the question then immediately came, why are we not prescribing music therapy for people with depression? And the simple answer to that, as I did the research, is because we don't yet have the clinical evidence. So part of the book is to create something that's happy and joyful so that we're not spending all the time thinking about Trump or Brexit or our Canadian election or any of the other stressful things. We're thinking about great stories and songs. And then we're raising money, fundamental money for research so that we can prove, hopefully, that music therapy actually has a healing power for anxiety and depression. We know qualitatively, all of the research suggests that it's super helpful, but we don't have the clinical evidence. So that's what we're going to try and go and address in the science.
Robert Carley is your co-author on this book. How did you guys meet?
Well, it's funny. You'll see in the book there are a lot of little Easter eggs through the book. You'll see the Burnside brothers. We both lived on Burnside Drive, so we're neighbors actually first and foremost. I was telling Rob the story of I was thinking about are there songs that make you ultimately happy? Like, is there a universal happy song? And he said, Terry, there's no such thing as a universal happy song. So we had debates. There might have been beer involved, or other substances. But as we go through it, we're talking about, how does music actually impact people? And I started to talk to him about the idea of the book and capturing a bunch of songs that make people happy. And he said, Terry, I would love to lean in on this. And he truly became a co-founder and partner in the journey. And Rob's a Gemini award-winning music writer, producer, world-class saxophonist. He's done all of the 14 seasons of Murdoch Mysteries. He has performed live with the Toronto Symphony, with Danny Michel, with Chris Hadfield, the Bare Naked Ladies. So he is the music guy. I am the idea guy, and thinking about how do we use this to try and disrupt or shake up some of the world of mental health.
So the Awesome Music Project Canada features Canadians from all walks of life, including well-renowned artists like Sarah McLachlan, Rick Mercer, Chris Hadfield, Michael Bublé, Leona Boyd, love her. How did you guys decide who you would reach out to initially?
We, it was a function of our individual networks. So Rob has a fantastic network in the music industry. I have one in the corporate industry and across the country. And then Page 2 and their network have a group of people. We started very early in the discussion knowing that we wanted some musicians and people from the music industry, but we didn't want this to be a music industry book, like only artists and musicians. We wanted it to be something that appealed to everybody, anybody and everybody. And we quickly said, okay, what if we tried to have the goal of this being a book that represents the entire mosaic of Canada? So in the 111 stories, we have 31 approximately that are famous people, and you mentioned a bunch of them that most Canadians would recognize. But we have people from every single province and territory. We have people from the LGBTQ plus community. We have people from the Indigenous community. We have an 8-year-old girl and a 100-year-old in the book. So the goal was that 95+% of Canadians would look at the book and they would find someone in the book that they would resonate with and say, hey, that's kind of like me. And look at that. Oh, they went through a tough time and music pulled them out. That's pretty cool. Maybe I should listen to some more music. So it was, at risk in today's diverse community, at risk of Terry and Rob, 2 white older guys from Toronto, right? Like that was the risk. If we only pulled our network, we would not have the diversity that we have in the book, which I'm very proud of, the kind of stories that are there. And hopefully, and so far the feedback has been very positive that lots and lots of different people love the book and people that we wouldn't have expected otherwise. So,
any stories that stand out to you in particular?
There are some major moving stories, and I think the one that we just had performed at the Gladstone at our book launch event last week is one of the more poignant ones. Shaker Goti is a lieutenant commander in the Special Armed Forces for Canada, and he was stationed in Haiti doing relief work down there. And he was in a hotel, and the hotel collapsed. The building collapsed, and he was buried alive for 24 hours. And he basically thought he was dead. And he kept hearing in his mind, okay, if I just stay conscious, if I can stay conscious, maybe, just maybe, I'll get to see my wife and kids again. And a lot of courage, a lot of strength, inner strength, and he's in the armed forces, so I guess he's got a lot of inner strength and focus. But he kept hearing an old Bruce Cockburn song, and Bruce just played yesterday, I think, at Kerner Hall here, Canadian iconic songwriter, and the song was "Lovers in a Dangerous Time," and the lyric that he kept hearing was, kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight. And so you think about it, he's buried alive underneath all of this rubble, and he's thinking, okay, if I can just kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight when people start taking the rubble off of me, maybe I will be able to survive. What's interesting is when you talk to him about the story, he wasn't hearing Bruce Cockburn. He was hearing the Bare Naked Ladies cover of it. He could physically hear Ed Robertson hear it. And this is the kind of stuff that this project is doing. So when we had our launch party at the Gladstone last week, Shaker came in full dress military gear. He told his story about, the collapse of the building and being buried alive, etc. And then Ed Robertson and Jim Cregan from the Bare Naked Ladies came and performed it. And that was amazing. There are many wonderful stories in the book, and people. What was interesting for us is people got super personal. Like they got into family members dying and what they went through at the time. Amanda Lang's story about her sister passing away, and then she and her other sisters, sitting on their floor and playing albums that her sister wanted them to hear. Super personal stories. People coming out as gay and the songs that they listened to actually give them the strength, in that environment. And so some phenomenal stories, that get very, very personal and, deep for people. So I was surprised, and we didn't ask for that. We just asked for a story that made them happy and hopeful, and these were the stories that came forward. So I think they were stories that needed to be told or wanted to be told.
Terry Stewart, powerful. On that note, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us, and of course our artists and the things that we do globally, and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony Alago, music executive, photographer, author, and you are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
So Terry Stewart, you are the CIO, Chief Innovation Officer for Deloitte Canada. What does that mean?
So my job is really twofold. Help a 157-year-old company think about what new services and new capabilities we should have. So innovating Deloitte internally. And then also helping our clients think about how do they put in innovative capabilities and sustainable practices. So innovation is one of those buzzwords now that's used everywhere, and I think I may have to change my title shortly because of that. But how do you get new products, new services out to the market in an era when we have things being 3D printed that could never have been printed before, when we have artificial intelligence doing things that humans used to do, and now we can do it in an automated fashion and do it better with technology. So helping our teams and our clients understand the technologies, understand the new business models, so that they can disrupt themselves instead of being disrupted by somebody else. So everybody wants to be the Netflix, not the Blockbuster. So that's kind of my job for us as well as for our clients.
And you've been doing this for 25 years, like helping your clients solve business problems.
I thought we weren't going to talk about how old I am. But I have been doing consulting for going on sneaking up on 30 years actually now.
And so the question is, how does a successful businessman co-author a #1 music book? How does that happen?
Yeah, many people have said, Terry, how the heck is your name on the front of this book? So the concept was my idea. Rob has been a co-collaborator from day one through the entire journey. And what we said, neither of us, so Rob's a professional musician and music writer and producer, and I'm a management consulting partner at one of Canada's largest professional services firms. So what we said is, how do we get the best people to help us do this? Mm-hmm. And I had contacted 4 different individuals, some in the U.S. and some here in Canada, that had written books and had stuff published that I really liked. And all of them said, well, you have to come across this company called Page 2 out of Vancouver. And we already had an idea that we wanted the book to be heavily Canadian centric, both the content of it as well as how it got published. Mm-hmm. So off we went, and we met with Jesse and the team, Jesse Finkelstein at Page 2, and they were amazing, and they had the right kind of dynamic. They really grabbed a hold of the concept and said, we want to help you guys with this, and away we went. And then they connected us into writers, into artists, and all of that. So outsource would be the quick answer to that question.
Would you say that you're more, say, for lack of better words or phrases, you're the business side of things?
Yeah, the creative concept was definitely mine, and then Rob brought a bunch of the musicality to it, and then the whole science of how do you publish a book was Jessie and her team, her expert team at Page 2.
Do you have a music background?
I have a passion for music. So
you don't play any instruments? You didn't?
Well, no, I played piano when I was a kid, and then clarinet in high school, and then I was a DJ. I went to school overseas to United World College of the Atlantic in Wales for grade 12 and 13, and I was a DJ over there. I received a saxophone for my 35th birthday. I have not become proficient in that yet, but that is my next task, is to take on the saxophone. And I'm hoping that when Rob gets some spare time here, Christian will give me some lessons. But, so I've always had a passion for music. So as opposed to being someone who, performed, a lot on that. But Rob is clearly the deep music person underneath it.
Living in the age of disruption, you helped coin this phrase?
Yeah, the World Economic Forum would call the time that we're living in the 4th Industrial Revolution. Mm-hmm. So we've gone through multiple industrial revolutions previously. Things are changing so quickly, whether it's the advancements of technology or new business models or new capabilities and innovation. So this is a very disruptive time. There are companies that, were thriving that are no longer around. There are people that had jobs that no longer have jobs because some of the technologies are taking over or transforming their jobs. There are brand new companies, more exciting companies that are starting and going to $1 billion valuation from nowhere because of the advances in technology. So the age of disruption is really just to help people understand that we're living in a time where if it feels a little bit stressful, it feels like the change is coming quick and furious. It's because it is. And it's no longer that only one technology impacts you. We now have IoT, or the Internet of Things, like wearable devices and tracking, and cars that can be autonomous and drive by themselves, or almost to that level. So all of these things are starting to compound, and that's why we're calling it the age of disruption. So, and it's not to scare people, because we don't believe that, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt strategy works. But some of the research that Deloitte has done actually on Canada, we are falling behind on the productivity and innovation agenda. So part of this is to try and wake people up, wake corporate Canada up. Mm-hmm. And disruption is one of those words that does conjure up a need for action.
So neurological research confirms that music is good for us. Do you think that your book, The Awesome Music Project, could potentially be considered a disruptor? And by this, I mean by how we perceive music and the impact on the listener.
I'm super hopeful that it's a constructive disruptor, so that it actually helps illuminate the healing power of music for people, both in performing music, listening to music, going and seeing live music. But the first piece of research we're going to do is with a group of people with clinical depression and actually see if clinical-based music therapy can actually change the brain chemistry. That's just one of many different types of research that we want to do. We want to get deeper into research of when you and I go to see a concert together, why is it that we feel better coming out of that concert than if we were both sitting in my living room listening to the exact same songs? So the social aspect of going and seeing a live performance is there. So there's a whole bunch of different aspects of the healing power of music that we want to look into. I think it's very strange with all of the different mechanisms that we have today that our medical profession really only has one solution to somebody that presents as having anxiety or clinical depression: antidepressants. We have one answer today. And so what we're trying to do is hopefully dig underneath that and prove that there are other answers. And we're not saying, by the way, that antidepressants are the wrong thing. We're just saying it's a bit strange that it's the only thing. And so if we call it a disruption, if we call it a catalyst, I'm hoping that this actually can help us get to the point where we have proven clinical science behind this, so that then we can go to the government, to the insurance companies and others, say, we now know, not just through the qualitative evidence, but through clinical protocol-based evidence, that this is actually moving the dial on brain chemistry and has a lot of other positive effects. If you're doing music therapy, you're interacting with someone, you're not just going home and taking pills. So there's a lot of other different aspects to it.
Why do you think there really hasn't been that push for the science behind music and the healing powers behind music?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because if you talk to people and music therapy has been around for a number of decades, so it's not a brand new thing, although it's getting much more sophisticated now. We are at an interesting time, and I'll lean on the technology a little bit. We're at an interesting time now where we can, for a few $100s, put an EEG on your skull, an electroencephalogram, and actually measure your brain waves. And so we're at a time when the access to the technology to instrument and understand is much less expensive, and that's one of the exciting parts of the age of disruption, as we called it, is those technologies are moving on an exponential curve. So they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And now we can apply something that would have been $500,000, 10 years ago, we can actually do it for a $1,000 experiment. So I think that the ability, the cost of the technologies is one. I think when you get into doing clinical protocol based, like we don't want to be prescribing things that we're not sure if they work or not. So there's a lot of robust processes that need to go into a clinical trial. The selection of the individuals, how you run the trial, making sure that you have placebos or examples where you're not applying it and you see if the results are the same or not. So lots of different costs that go into that, and I think that's a piece of the puzzle. And that's why all of the proceeds from the book are going to fund our first piece of research at CAMH. So we have to raise just short of $1 million to go do that. And that's one of the inhibitors, having enough money to fund it. There have been lots of other things that needed clinical trial funding, and this one's one that we're going to go tackle.
The science that's in the book, did those scientists and their research, did that come from the publisher?
No, what we did when I went, I was kind of on a mission to look at how music was being used for mental health. Looked across the country and said, are there charities, if I want to take the proceeds from the book and apply them to a charity, which one would I apply it to? And we looked at some amazing programs. So there's a program out of British Columbia called Music Heals. Fantastic program. It raises money for people to learn music therapy, so to become a music therapist, or if you can't afford music therapy but you need it, it actually helps provide the funding to receive music therapy. So that was a pretty cool one. We went across the country and more people said, you need to be talking to her. You want to do a breakthrough on music and mental health and anxiety and depression. You want to be talking to the guys at CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health here in Toronto. And it's a world-renowned center for addiction and mental health. I went and talked to them and said, okay, if I could raise $500,000, $1 million, is there some interesting research on music and mental health that you think we could do? And they said, oh my goodness, we have several doctors that have been thinking about this. So they have a world-class team of neuroscientists that they've lured to Toronto from Boston, from San Francisco, from Germany and other cities. They have in fact got 50% of the worldwide patents on neurotracers are at CAMH. Neurotracers are when you take in a radioactive substance and it's engineered to attach to a protein in your brain. So as I started to look at the things that we would need to do, this group of 3 people led by Dr. Jeff Meyer and Neil Vazdev, and then Dr. Michael Tote from University of Toronto is the 4th collaborator in the mix. And Michael is an interesting combination. So he has a PhD in neuroscience and is a worldwide renowned classical violinist. And he runs the department or as a chair in the Department of Music and Life Sciences at U of T. So the universities are starting to understand this linkage between music and our bodies and our health. So anyway, the group of 4 said, here's a project that we would love to do, but it hasn't quite gotten to the top of the funding scheme yet. I said, all right, that's my job. I'm going to go with the book, with our live event series that we'll talk about. We're going to go raise the funds to go do that work.
If I go to, say, 2 concerts a month, what happens to me? Do I live longer? Is that a scientific fact? Something that scientists are looking into?
Yeah, we're into early days on this, but there's some great research that's just come out of both Australia and the United Kingdom with over 1,000 participants in it. And they found that people that did, and the magic number appears to be 2 concerts a month. I'm not sure why it's 2 concerts a month, but that's the number, and that's my goal personally for 2019 is 2 concerts a month. But that they lived over 10 years longer. In one study, it was 10 years. In one study, it was between 5 and 10. So what we think is happening, and I think what they're digging into is causation versus correlation, right? So is it that happier people go to concerts and therefore, that's a correlation, right? Or I'm sad and depressed, I go to a concert, I'm happier, and that's a causation, right? So that's kind of what they're digging into. But there is clearly a social aspect. You go to a concert to see a band, even if you go by yourself to the concert, you're there and you're enveloped in all the positivity, generally, depending on the band, obviously, and what's being performed. So I think we're going to see a lot more about that, and hopefully that means the continued swell in live concerts continues, and that's very important for the artists. It's very important for us as a society, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's a difference between going to see like a concert from a big name band, like say Fleetwood Mac, as opposed to going to a bar and listening to some local musicians that are playing, that have a band that are on stage? Do you think that it matters?
I don't have any data or science to back that one up, but I think both have massive merits to them. And I'm just thinking I've averaged 4.5 concerts a month this year, getting pretty focused on it. And it's probably, if I reflect, it's probably about 50-50. I've seen some very big concerts like Elton John coming back through. But I was down at South by Southwest in March with a group of people from Toronto, and I saw 18 bands, and generally they were in, 50 to 150 person venues. Right. The venue that we had last week for the Gladstone was an amazing one, small, tight, 200 people. So I think both of those kinds of events are beneficial for people. I do think the large venues, the Scotiabank Arenas, et cetera, of the world, those ones have a lot of pros, but they also, depending on the person, can be overwhelming, right? Like if you're somebody who has claustrophobia or social anxiety, like that might be challenging, where some of the smaller venues might be more approachable. So I think there's not a one size is the perfect size. I think it's, find the right venue, the right bands, and the things that work for you.
You have a concert, an event coming up in November?
We do. We're starting an event series across the country, and their theme is stories, songs, and science. So someone telling a story from the book or beyond the book, because we're starting to capture the next book and other stories. So someone telling the story, someone performing, an artist performing the song that they're talking about, and then a scientist talking a little bit about, why does our toe start tapping when we listen to music? So Gabe Nespoli, as an example, is a neuroscience that's going to talk about that. So November 1st at the museum in Kitchener-Waterloo is going to be a fantastic event, and it's being done in collaboration with the Grand River Hospital Foundation. They launched a music therapy program for youth last year, and it exploded, and it's been super successful, and they want to expand on that program and have a full-time music therapist for adults. So we're going to raise some money for them, some money for the research that we need to do, and we've got an amazing set of artists. So Dan Hill is coming, Sometimes When We Touch. Remember that?
I love that song.
Danny Michelle, Sarah Sleen, and we've got folks in the book like Nino Ricci are going to be there, Gabe Nespoli. So it's going to be a fantastic, fantastic event. November 1st, which is a Friday night, going to blow out the doors of the museum.
In Kitchener.
In Kitchener-Waterloo. Worth the drive from Toronto, for those of your listeners that happen to be in Toronto.
I think you just mentioned a series. So are these going to be rolling out over time?
Yeah, that's our goal. Like in the book, we have people from communities all across the country. And as we started, and this is maybe an interesting part of the journey, we started with, let's just do a book and we'll give CAMH some money for some research. As we went through that, everybody we talked to, whether they were individuals or artists, said, Terry and Rob, like, you realize you're onto something that's really, really important here. Like, this is lightning in a bottle. You can't just do a book and give CAMH some money. So we realized that what we were really trying to create was a movement. So trying to create a movement that says, hey, we can address mental health with the healing power of music and in a more fundamental way that is actually science-based. So that's kind of what we've created. That's why we've created a full not-for-profit, the Awesome Music Project. And every artist that we talked to said, Terry, like, you had me at music. I'll give you a story for the book. No problem. But don't you need money? And we said, well, yeah, we need money, but we weren't going to approach you for the money. We're going to sell the book. And he said, yeah, but what if I did a concert? So Theo Fleury, hockey player Theo Fleury, he has a band in Calgary. So Theo said, what if I did a concert in Calgary? And, some of my friends had come out, like, I'm sure, Jan had come out and a few other people. And I said, hold on, just wait a sec. When you say Jan, do you mean Jan Arden? Yeah, Jan. So Theo is gonna help us, and we haven't booked the dates yet, but for the ones past the Kitchener-Waterloo one, because getting the book out and getting our launch day and then getting Kitchener-Waterloo has been reasonably full-time consuming for Rob and I. But we're starting to look at Vancouver, at Calgary, at Ottawa, at Montreal, at the East Coast. Alan Doyle's in the book. We got to do something big with Great Big Sea out on the East Coast, and then hit some Indigenous communities across the country. So, and the idea would be, and people should feel free to reach out to us, but the idea would be every single one of those concerts is a collaboration with a local charity. So there's a charity that is doing something with music therapy and mental health, or music and mental health, and away we go. So that's the idea. We don't know how quickly, and it'll be, time and passion and energy determining, but that's kind of the goal.
That's fantastic. So how does that make you feel in regards to coming up with this concept and this idea? Because essentially this idea came from yourself, you were saying, and now it's starting to be a movement. How does that make you feel personally?
It feels pretty good, but I feel, interestingly, like, I'm super excited about the book, and the response from everybody has been amazing. But it feels now like at one point the book was the job, the goal, right? Now it feels like we've barely just started. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to create the movement across Canada, and you can hear, the stories and the different events that we want to do, and all of those are going to have a lot of work to be done. We've already been approached by other countries to look at doing something in Australia or something in Israel or something in the Netherlands or the UK or the US. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about a movement, like I think about Movember, for example. Mm-hmm. So a few Australian guys got together and said, why are guys still dying of prostate cancer while they're young? And they just did a charity event, a goofy grow a mustache thing in November. And then suddenly that went viral and went around the world. So if we could do for music and mental health what Movember did for men and prostate cancer, how amazing would that be? Right. So I feel elated at the success of the book, but I also feel a little bit of weight and responsibility to try and take this and have the kind of impact that it needs to have. Because the book is nice, but we haven't actually raised the $1 million for the research at CAMH yet, right? So we have to go and do that, get the research started, and then hopefully start to change the policies and the strategies. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is actually about, is changing how our society deals with mental health using music as a healing power. So having a book is nice, but it's a means to an end.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that this is the book. Is there a second book in the works?
Well, Rob keeps telling me, like, let's make sure the first one is out and we've sold all our copies and so on. But they're going pretty well. Costco just ordered another full allotment. So if you are near a Costco, go and check out Costco for the book. There are a couple of ones in concept, I will say. So we have some sports people in the book. So Theo Fleury as an example, Jordan Eberle, NHL #1 draft pick, Jennifer Heil, amazing Canadian Olympian, gold medal, award-winning skier. But it's not heavy on sports. As we went through, there were a ton of athletes. We talked to folks from MLSE. We talked to folks from a number of NBA teams. We talked to folks from esports. They all have stories about music that makes them happy and hopeful and gets them fired up for games and events. So I think there's going to be an Awesome Music Project Sports Edition. I think there's and it'll be a global one. So we'll have cricketers and we'll have Formula One race car drivers and all of that kind of stuff. At least this is the Crazy Terry concept. And then we had a bunch of CEOs and heads of boards that wanted to have their story in the book, Canadian companies that you would know the names of. And we said we don't want this to become a corporate marketing exercise. So for this one, like let's keep it low. So we don't really have any of the CEOs that had approached me or that we'd had discussions with. So I think there's going to be a Corporate Titans edition, which could be just all senior people that you go, oh, that person likes, whatever, Doug and the Slugs. Really? That's crazy. So a couple of those are in the mix. And then think about how do we take this to other countries. So this is the Awesome Music Project Canada. There could be Awesome Music Project UK, et cetera.
Right. Brilliant. I didn't clue into that fact that it can then swap out Canada for the US or Australia.
Yeah, we're trying to create a playbook, right? A model that you could take to any other country.
When you were coming up with the title, did you have that in mind?
It was there early because we had a bunch of people. I sit on our global innovation executive, and I, would over a cocktail or two be talking about some of the things I'm doing in my spare time with some of my colleagues from around the world. And they're like, "Oh my God, I want to bring this to Spain, or I want to do this here." So, so the idea started germinating. But one of the challenges with driving philanthropy is if you try and do too much too quickly, it can all fizzle out and you don't have the kind of impact. So we want to do it and do it right here in our home and true and native land of Canada, and then take it elsewhere. But really do it well in Canada so it has an impact. Because again, it's about changing how we think about mental health through the healing power of music. That's the goal as opposed to how many books we sell.
So if people want to get in touch with you, find out more about the book, how can they do that?
Yeah, so our website is www.theawesomemusicproject.com. And on the website, you can buy the book, and we link to chapters in Indigo and Amazon on there. You can join our mailing list, and you can put notes in that. So you can join the mailing list because we will have emailing list. We're going to be coming up with a podcast, so we're breaking up the book and all of the other stories. We have another 150 stories that aren't in the book that are amazing that, will be either on the podcast or on the website or in a subsequent book. And they can also donate because we have to raise some money along the way. So that's probably the best way right now.
Fantastic. Terry Stewart, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being here, and well done. Number 1.
My pleasure.
That was my 2019 interview for the Awesome Music Project. On Amazon.ca, the book has a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars. For more on this book and charity, simply visit theawesomemusicproject.com.
The phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? I said, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors. And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true. So believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Keegan Hurst, former professional rugby player, coach, raving homosexual, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.